If you were starting from scratch, had no holdings in crypto, but could only bet in one place, BTC versus ETH versus other, you only get to pick one. Which would you choose and why?
BTC.
BTC, why?
And the reason is everything else is a technology company, whereas Bitcoin has become almost like an element, like gold. That's to say, the fact that Bitcoin not only is the first, but it has the disappeared founder. Because it has a disappeared founder, it fits a certain kind of mentality where, because there's no leader, you don't feel like you're submitting to somebody. You don't feel like you're submitting to somebody by buying gold. Okay. Satoshi is who you make them out to be. The disappeared founder. I mean, one thing, like, this is not how I think about money typically, but if you look on any dollar bill, there's weird incantations. There's like a pyramid with like eyes on it and so on. Most forms of bills, they have like the most famous people in the country on them. The branding exercise is actually pretty important on this stuff, right? And the thing is that you can separate out the economic, the ideological, and the technological, right? As I said, it's a log scale. Most people would consider me, like from the outside, very similar to a Bitcoin maximalist. But I'll give you two thoughts on that. So first is on the economics. Yes, if I can only buy one thing, you just buy Bitcoin, because nothing competes with it. It is possible, by the way, now to be clear, do I think it's 100% chance of success? No, I think it's possible that there is some remaining security issue associated with the code. But what's interesting is Square is now doing something with decentralizing mining. And the fact that mining is being driven out of China is actually good, because I don't think any other state has the state capacity to do what China did and the ruthlessness. So it's unlikely that there's going to be a technical attack on Bitcoin. The only thing that's going to happen going forward is potentially a regulatory or a software attack. But outside of that, its community is so strong that can probably repair on that. Regulatory attacks are also less likely to kill it because the US is losing control over the world. If Germany defies on Nord Stream 2, and if sanctions don't affect Germany anymore and doesn't affect India, if El Salvador can go Bitcoin, some states will have Bitcoin be legal, as well as within the US. So the federal government doesn't have the veto. So finally, really the technical attack. Is there some possibility of some 0 day that can like inflate a lot of coins and be hard to patch? That's possible. It is still something where there's like one client that is very popular, one Bitcoin client. It's not a multi-client thing. So that's like the main weakness right now. Is it possible there's some supply chain attack where some library is included and it hasn't been audited sufficiently? Yes. Also, quantum cryptography, that's kind of an unknown, but is it possible that, say, quantum decryption becomes something that is out there before quantum encryption, that quantum decryption is highly centralized and some governments can do it or some centralized actor can do it, but quantum encryption is not something everybody has access to. Those are all possibilities, but the risk factor is relatively low. So that's on the economics. On the ideological, kind of the way I think about it is, I actually, if you go item by item, probably I agree with maximalists on many things. I understand where they're coming from. Exit the Fed, check. Stop the bailouts, check. Return to sound money, check. Build a voluntary society, check. End the welfare warfare state, check. Bitcoin as a global reserve currency, check. Bitcoin as an epochal technological breakthrough, check. But Bitcoin as the only digital asset ever and everything else is evil, that's where they lose me. And that's X, right? And that's why buy Bitcoin, sell maximalism is the economic / ideological thing, because I'm not a monotheist. I'm like, you might say from my cultural background or something like that, India is polytheistic, it's plastic, it's pluralist. I believe in, the value of immutability, but I also believe in the value of programmability. And I think it's good that those are two separate things. If it's highly immutable, like Bitcoin or gold, it's not going to be highly mutable and programmable. Those are two valuable things, but they're two almost necessarily separate things, right? And so the thing about it is that's on the ideology. Again, though, the reason I think maximalists are going to have amazing traction or huge traction over the coming years, I think Bitcoin maximalism is, in a sense, the most important political movement in the world that people don't understand about today. Because essentially their argument is it's all a scam. That is to say, the Fed is a scam, but actually all the printed money means many of the corporations are a scam. The censorship is a scam. Like lots of things that the state is saying are false. It's everybody who's rich, they're all cantillionaires because, have you heard that term, the Cantillon effect? Do you know what that is?
I do not.
The Cantillon effect is like some people get the printed money first. So it's not uniform in terms of its application of society. there's some truth to that. Like that's bidding up assets, that is causing something where it's like dunking on Mars, actually, I think Mars has lower gravity than the US. It's like Space Jam.
Dunking on the moon, we could say.
Yeah, dunking on the moon. That's right. Actually, Mars 38% of the gravity there. So yeah, like basically dunking in a lower gravity environment. You might still need to be athletic, but less so. That's sort of what it's like doing tech or VC in this highly inflationary environment, at least for now. It's possible that, all gains are just wiped out because things go totally vertical. That's what happened in Weimar. Everybody thought they were. Have you read When Money Dies?
I have not.
Okay, that's a good book that actually Joe Colangelo had a good clip from. I'll just kind of read that clip. This is by Adam Ferguson. He had a great quote. Currently reading When Money Dies, The History of Hyperinflation in Weimar, Germany. One of the wildest aspects I never knew was that early on, people all thought they were getting rich. They were selling hard assets for what they thought were insanely high prices in marks, right? And so essentially, because the printed money flowed to some first rather than others, there was this Cantillon effect, right? And here's some quotes. My banker congratulates me on every new rise, but he does not dispel the secret uneasiness which my growing wealth arouses in me. It already amounts to millions. Speculation on the stock exchange is spread to all ranks of the population, and shares rise like air balloons to limitless heights. The value of my industrial investments is rising to an extent which seems to be incomprehensible, and all this makes me uneasy. And basically, this thing is something, of course, then the hyperinflation comes because everybody's rich, so they all spend, and all the prices suddenly rise because more money is chasing fewer goods. In the US, it's nonlinear, actually. One aspect of it that I hadn't fully understood is the printed money is in some ways contributing to the Great Resignation. So, for whatever reason, you're having strikes, you're having people who are not working as truck drivers or working as dock workers anymore. Maybe more power to them. They've gotten, this printed money. But what that does is actually it non-linearly depresses supply, not just of labor, but of goods, because the ports aren't being unpacked, right? That's why the administration is talking about bringing the National Guard to go and man the docks. But that concept is it's not just more money chasing fewer goods, or it's not more money chasing the same goods. It's more money chasing fewer goods, fewer supply of both goods and services, less labor and less stuff because people are not being paid to unload things or build things, So I think there's a nonlinear inflation effect that might